The desperate battle. The war had lasted for 10 long years. The Galactic Alliance had fought bravely, but against the Zorvath Empire, they had no chance. The Zorvath were ruthless, their ships larger, their weapons deadlier. Every battle ended the same way, with fire, destruction, and silence. Now the last stronghold of the Alliance, Fortress Prime, was under siege. From the massive war room deep inside the planet, Supreme Commander Velrith of the Tekar race stared at the holographic battle map, his scaled hands clenched into fists. The red markers, Zorvath ships, had completely surrounded Fortress Prime. There was no way out. Behind him, leaders of different alien species stood in grim silence. The Jorvans, the Rilliks, the Shentari, the best minds of the galaxy, defeated, broken, hopeless. "This is the end," whispered High Chancellor Orvix of the Jorvans, his 4 eyes dimmed with sadness. "We have no more fleets, no more warriors, no more time." A deep voice interrupted. "Not yet." Everyone turned toward the sound. A single human stood at the far side of the war room. He had been silent until now, simply watching, observing. His name was Commander Daniel Reeves, one of the last human officers in the Alliance fleet. He stepped forward, his boots echoing in the quiet chamber. His face was calm, too calm for a man facing certain death. Velrith frowned. "Commander Reeves, do you not see the map? We are completely surrounded. The Zorvath will attack within hours. There is no escape." Reeves looked at the hologram, then back at the Supreme Commander. He smirked. "I know," he said. "And I'm telling you, I got this." A stunned silence filled the room. The alien stared at him as if he had lost his mind. What was this human saying? Orvix shook his head. "Forgive me, Commander, but I got this. The Zorvath fleet numbers over 1,000 warships. We have less than 50 left, unless you have a fleet hidden somewhere." Reeves chuckled. "No hidden fleet, just a plan." Velrith's eyes narrowed. "A plan, against an unstoppable force." Reeves nodded. "That's right." He pointed at a small blue marker on the map. It was barely noticeable among the massive warships. "All I need is one ship." The room erupted. Orvix's voice rose in disbelief. "One ship? Are you joking?" Even Velrith, who had fought alongside humans before, struggled to remain patient. "You cannot be serious." "Reeves." The human grinned, completely serious. Velrith exhaled sharply. "Which ship?" Reeves tapped the screen. A single name appeared. "Ironclad." Velrith frowned. That ship is obsolete." Orvix scoffed. "It's outdated. Small. It has no weapons powerful enough to challenge even a single Zorvath warship." Reeves crossed his arms. "Maybe. But it's all I need." Silence fell once more. Velrith studied the human carefully. Reeves didn't look desperate. He didn't look afraid. If anything, he looked excited. The Supreme Commander took a slow breath. He had fought alongside humans before. He knew one thing for certain. Humans were dangerous. And if this human was smiling at the edge of death, then something was about to happen. Velrith sighed. "Fine, Commander. You have your ship." Reeves nodded. "Good. Then let's get started." At that moment, an alarm blared through the war room. The Zorvath were beginning their final attack. A voice echoed through the intercom. "Supreme Commander, the enemy fleet is moving. We estimate full planetary bombardment in 20 minutes. Velrith turned back to Reeves. "This is it. If you have a miracle, now is the time." Reeves grinned again. "Don't worry. Just watch." And with that, he turned and walked away, heading straight for the Ironclad. The fate of the war now rested on one human and his single outdated ship. The plan no one expected. The Ironclad was old. It wasn't just outdated, it was ancient by modern war standards. The ship had been decommissioned decades ago and was only kept around as a training vessel. Its hull was scared, its weapons were weak, and its shields were laughable compared to the mighty warships of the Zorvath Empire. And yet, this was the ship Reeves had chosen. As he stepped onto the bridge, the remaining crew, only 12 men and women, snapped to attention. They looked uncertain, nervous, but ready. Lieutenant Harris, the ship's tactical officer, broke the silence. "Sir, I don't mean to question your plan, but how exactly are we supposed to fight 1,000 Zorvath warships?" Reeves grinned. "We're not going to fight them." The crew exchanged confused glances. Harris frowned. "Then, what are we doing?" Reeves walked over to the control panel and tapped a few commands. The ship hummed to life, the old engines struggling but still functional. The ironclad was weak, but it had one advantage: it was fast. "We're going to make them chase us," Reeves said. The bridge fell into silence again. Ensign Patel, the youngest officer, spoke up hesitantly. "Chase us. But won't they just destroy us?" Reeves smirked. "Not if they think we're the bigger threat." Harris let out a short laugh. "With all due respect, sir, how can this rust bucket be a bigger threat than the rest of the fleet?" Reeves leaned in, his eyes gleaming with mischief. "Because they don't know what we have." The crew stiffened. Harris narrowed his eyes. "Sir, what do we have?" Reeves tapped a final command, and suddenly, a hologram appeared in front of them. It showed a single classified file, one that had been buried deep within the Alliance's military records. "Project Phantom Strike." Gasps echoed through the bridge. Harris froze, his face turning pale. That project was abandoned. No ship could handle it. Every test failed. Reeves grinned wider. Every test failed, because no one was crazy enough to try it in a real battle. The crew stared at him. Patel swallowed hard. "Sir, are we crazy enough?" Reeves turned back toward the hologram, his fingers dancing across the controls. "Oh, absolutely." Meanwhile, on the Zorvath flagship, High Lord Verisk of the Zorvath Empire stood on the bridge of the Doombringer, watching as his fleet closed in on Fortress Prime. His forces had surrounded the planet. Victory was moments away. A Zorvath officer approached. "High Lord, we have detected a single enemy ship departing the battlefield. It's insignificant. An old vessel, likely attempting to flee." Verisk barely glanced at the report. "Then destroy it." The officer hesitated. "Sir, the ship isn't running away." Verisk's brow furrowed. "What do you mean?" The officer gulped. "It's coming straight toward us." Silence fell across the bridge. Verisk stepped forward, studying the incoming vessel. It was small, weak, laughable. "What are they thinking?" he muttered. A second officer looked up from his console. "Sir, they're broadcasting a message." Verisk's eyes narrowed. "Play it." The audio crackled to life. And then, a single human voice spoke. "Hey, Zorvath scum." It was Commander Reeves. Verisk's grip tightened on the railing. How dare this human address him so casually? Reeves' voice continued. "You see this ship. You probably think it's nothing. Just a tiny, weak little vessel." Verisk sneered. "Because it is." Reeves chuckled. "Yeah, that's what I want you to think." For the first time, a flicker of doubt appeared in Verisk's mind. Reeves' voice dropped to a whisper. "But if I were you, I'd start running." Then, the transmission cut off. Verisk's blood ran cold. He turned to his officers. "Scan that ship. Now." The Zorvath crew scrambled to obey. A few seconds later, alarms blared across the Doombringer's bridge. "Sir," an officer shouted, panic in his voice. "That ship, it's carrying an energy signature we've never seen before." Verisk's eyes widened. "What?" The officer stared at the screen, his mandibles clicking rapidly in fear. "Sir, it's charging up." And then, the ironclad vanished. Not exploded, not disintegrated, not destroyed. It simply disappeared. Verisk froze, his mind struggling to comprehend. What, in the name of the void, just happened? The officer's voice trembled. Sir, I don't know, but that ship is gone, and we have no idea where it went. And deep in space, far beyond enemy sensors, Commander Reeves smirked. Phase 1 was complete. Now, it was time for war. The Phantom's strike. Deep space, unknown coordinates. The ironclad materialized out of nowhere, its rusted hull barely holding together. The ship had not jumped in the conventional sense. There was no warp tunnel, no hyperspace distortion. It had simply vanished from reality, and then reappeared elsewhere. Inside the bridge, the crew gasped for air, their bodies struggling to adjust. Project Phantom Strike was experimental for a reason. Every previous test had resulted in catastrophic failures. And yet, here they were, alive. Lieutenant Harris staggered forward, gripping the console. We made it. Reeves exhaled slowly, a grin spreading across his face. Oh, we did more than that. The navigation officer, Patel, shook her head. Sir, this technology, it shouldn't work. We weren't moving through normal space. Reeves raised a hand, silencing her. No time to panic. We need to focus. He turned toward the ship's tactical display. They were exactly where he wanted them to be. The Zorvath fleet was still stationed near Fortress Prime, completely unaware of what had just happened. Their scanners had no way of detecting what the ironclad had just done, and that gave Reeves the element of surprise. He pressed a button, opening a private channel. All right, boys and girls, it's time for the fun part. Meanwhile, on the Zorvath flagship Doombringer, High Lord Verisk paced across the bridge, mandibles clicking in frustration. How does a ship simply disappear? He growled. No one had an answer. The bridge crew was scrambling, scanning every inch of space, but the ironclad was gone, leaving behind only a distorted energy signature that made no sense. One officer hesitated before speaking. Sir, we think they might have used a form of quantum displacement. Verisk turned, his eyes narrowing. You think? The officer flinched. It's not a known technology, High Lord. No species in the galaxy has been able to make such a thing possible. Verisk let out a low growl. And yet, the humans have. A sudden beeping sound interrupted the discussion. High Lord, another officer shouted, panic in his voice. Something is happening. Verisk turned sharply. What now? The officer gulped. Sir, our rear fleet formation. They're exploding. Verisk froze. What? The holographic map of the battlefield flickered to life, showing several Zorvath warships in the backlines suddenly being ripped apart. But there was no enemy signal, no incoming projectiles, nothing. It was as if something invisible was hunting them down. And then, the comms crackled to life. A voice echoed through the flagship's speakers. A human voice. Hey, Verisk. Miss me? Verisk's mandibles clenched tightly. Reeves. Where are you, human? Verisk growled. What trickery is this? Reeves laughed, a cold, confident sound. I'm everywhere. And nowhere. The bridge officers shuddered. Verisk turned toward his crew. Find him. I want the 88 ship found to know. But before his officers could react, the Doombringer itself shuddered violently. An alarm blared, and a crew member screamed. Sir, a massive energy spike. It's coming from inside our own ship. Verisk's eyes widened. Impossible. But the next moment, he realized the truth. The ironclad hadn't just disappeared. It had phased inside his own fleet, and now it was tearing them apart from within. On board the ironclad, Reeves smirked, watching the chaos unfold. Zorvath ships were self-destructing as the ironclad moved unseen, phasing in and out of reality, planting warheads directly inside enemy hulls before vanishing again. This is working, Patel whispered, awe in her voice. Reeves chuckled. Of course it is. Harris shook his head. Sir, this technology is too dangerous. If we mess up, we could phase inside a planet, or a star, or... Reeves cut him off with a raised hand. That's why we won't mess up. He turned back to the controls, watching as the Zorveth fleet burned. Their mighty empire, their unstoppable war machine, was now running. The breaking point. Deep space, inside the Doombringer. The Zorveth High Lord Verusk staggered as another explosion rocked his flagship. Warning klaxons blared, lights flickered, and smoke choked the air. This is impossible, he muttered, his mandibles clicking in disbelief. A human warship had phased into the heart of his fleet. It was moving like a ghost, striking from within their own formation, detonating ships from the inside. But that wasn't the worst part. The Doombringer itself was now under attack, from an enemy they couldn't even see. High Lord, we have hull breaches on decks 12, 15, and 19. Our reactors are destabilizing. An officer screamed over the alarms. Verusk slammed his clawed fist against the command console. IGWAN-TEH ship found. A technician desperately tried to track the ironclad's movements, but every scan came back with nothing. This is not war, Verusk growled, eyes burning with rage. This is a curse. Then the comms crackled to life again. Hey, Verusk, you still breathing? That human voice again. Verusk snarled. Face me, coward. Fight with honor. A low chuckle came through the speakers. Oh, Verusk, Reeves said mockingly. You still don't get it, do you? The moment a human says asterisk asterisk I've got this, the war is already over. Then, in an instant, the entire bridge went dark. Aboard the ironclad, Lieutenant Harris' fingers flew across the controls, bypassing security firewalls at a speed no Zorveth AG could counter. Sir, we're in their system, she reported. We have control of their weapons, shields, and reactors. Reeves leaned forward, eyes locked onto the data streams flooding the screens. He had a choice to make. Destroy the Doombringer immediately, wipe out the enemy command in one devastating strike. Use its own weapons against the fleet, turn the Empire's might upon itself. Send a message, let them know exactly why humans were never to be underestimated. Reeves smirked. Option 3. Harris, open a fleet-wide broadcast, he ordered. A second later, every Zorvath ship received the transmission. Reeves's face appeared on their monitors, calm, confident, and utterly in control. Listen up, lizards, he said, voice dripping with amusement. This is Captain Reeves of the Ironclad. By now, you've figured out that your High Lord is indisposed. On the enemy flagship, Verusk roared in frustration, slamming his claws into a console, but no one could hear him. The human had muted his bridge. Reeves continued, his smirk widening. I just wanted to take a moment to let you all know, you've already lost. Your fleet, compromised. Your flagship, ours. Your war, a joke. Silence filled the Zorvath ships. Reeves let the weight of his words sink in before delivering the final blow. You can run, you can surrender, or you can fight. But if you choose the last option, I suggest you start writing your wills. He leaned back, because when a human says asterisk asterisk I got this, your war is already over. Then with a single command, he shut down every enemy ship's power systems. Fortress Prime, Zorvath War Council Chamber. The Zorvath Emperor, seated upon his massive obsidian throne, watched in horrified silence as the human's message played on the council's holographic display. Around him, his warlords exchanged nervous glances. This wasn't just a defeat. This was humiliation. The humans had crippled their greatest fleet. They had turned their most powerful warship into a joke. And they had done it all, without losing a single ship. The Emperor's claws dug into the arms of his throne. This is a disaster, one of the generals finally whispered. No, the Emperor corrected, his voice cold and heavy. "This is a warning." He turned his gaze toward the galactic star map, his glowing red eyes narrowing. "This war is over." A tense silence filled the room. "And now," the Emperor muttered, "we must prepare for the next one." The final blow. Aboard the ironclad, the aftermath of the victory. The Zorvath fleet drifted helplessly in space, their ships dark and powerless. A once mighty invasion force, now reduced to silent wreckage under human control. On the ironclad's bridge, Captain Reeves leaned back in his chair, watching the aftermath unfold. The Zorvath had two choices left: surrender or be erased from existence. "Sir," Lieutenant Harris spoke, her fingers flying across the control panels, "we're detecting movement from their flagship. Looks like escape pods." Reeves smirked. "Typical. Cut off their head and the body panics." But just then, another alert flashed across the screens. "Wait. No, sir, this isn't an escape. They're activating a failsafe." Reeves stiffened. "Explain." "The Doombringer. It's overloading its core. They're turning it into a bomb." The bridge fell silent for half a second. Then, "Shields up," Reeves barked. "All hands, brace for impact." The Zorvath's last desperate move had begun. Deep in the heart of the Doombringer, High Lord Verisk dragged himself toward the emergency terminal, blood dripping from his mandibles. The humans had humiliated him, but if he was going to die, he would take as many of them as possible with him. With a shaking claw, he activated the final override. "The Doombringer may be lost," he growled, "but so will humanity." A countdown appeared on every Zorvath screen. 5 minutes until core detonation. Verisk collapsed onto the deck, laughing weakly as the flames crept toward him. If he had to burn, so would they. Aboard the ironclad. A race against time. "Sir, the detonation will take out everything within a 20-light-year radius," Harris shouted. Reeves's mind worked at lightning speed. There was no way they could outrun a blast that size, not with an entire fleet of disabled ships around them. And then, a crazy idea formed. Not just crazy. Impossible. But humans didn't do possible. "Harris," Reeves said, his voice deadly calm, "can you hack their jump drive?" Harris blinked, her hands hesitating. "Sir, you want to?" "Yes," Reeves cut her off. "We're going to teleport their own bomb out of here." For a second, the bridge was dead silent. Then Harris's hands flew over the controls. "It's insane," she muttered, "but it might just work." The final moments. The countdown ticked down. 0:30. The ironclad's AI fought through Zorvath encryption, overriding system after system at inhuman speed. 0:20. Sparks flew as the ironclad's power fluctuated, forcing the ship into emergency reserves. 0:10. "Almost there," Harris yelled. 0:05. The jump drive engaged, but not on the ironclad. It activated on the Doombringer itself. 0:02. Reeves clenched his fists. "Go!" And in the blink of an eye, the Zorvath's superweapon vanished. Somewhere in deep space, a lone Zorvath warship, far from the battlefield, picked up a strange anomaly on their sensors. The crew barely had time to react before the Doombringer's core detonated, unleashing a supernova-level explosion into empty space. The shockwave rippled across the void, erasing everything in its wake. But no human ships were anywhere near it. The impossible had been done. Aboard the ironclad, the moment of realization, the bridge was deathly quiet. Reeves exhaled slowly. "Status." Harris ran a quick scan, then laughed in disbelief. "We're clear, sir. The Doombringer's gone." A roar of cheers erupted across the ironclad. The humans had won. And they had done it without firing a single shot. Reeves stood, cracking his knuckles. "Well," he muttered, "that was fun." Then, turning toward his crew, he smirked. "Let's go home." The aftermath. A new order begins. Galactic Council Chambers, the shockwave of defeat. The Grand Assembly Hall of the Galactic Council had never been this silent. Representatives from 1,000 species sat in stunned silence, their eyes locked on the holographic replay of the battle. The Zorveth fleet, destroyed. The Doombringer, vanished into the void. And the humans, untouched. High Chancellor Vorak, a veteran of centuries of war, leaned forward. His voice was barely a whisper. They won, without firing a single shot. The council chamber erupted. This is impossible. A reptilian ambassador roared. No species can manipulate a jump drive in combat. Another shrieked. If humanity can do this, what else are they capable of? Fear. That was the dominant emotion rippling through the council. Not anger, not disbelief, but pure, unfiltered fear. The humans had been seen as a rising power before. Now, they were a nightmare made real. Aboard the Ironclad, the message arrives. Back on the Ironclad, Captain Reeves stood on the observation deck, gazing at the stars. The battle had been won. The fleet was safe. But something about it didn't feel right. A soft beep broke his thoughts. A priority message had just come in. The Galactic Council had issued a summons. The humans were no longer just a faction in the void. They were now a force that the entire galaxy had to answer to. Reeves exhaled, rolling his shoulders. Guess it's time to see what the Council really thinks of us. The Zorveth homeworld. A fallen empire. Across the galaxy, the once mighty Zorveth Empire was in ruins. Their fleets, decimated. Their leaders, dead or missing. Their people, terrified. What was once an unstoppable war machine was now a fractured, powerless husk. But not all Zorveth had given up. Deep in the shadows of their ruined capital, a handful of survivors plotted in silence. The war isn't over, one growled. Humanity must pay, another hissed. The galaxy fears them now, but fear can be turned into hatred. They weren't planning another invasion. They were planning revenge. Earth, the birth of a superpower. For the first time in history, Earth was no longer just a planet. It was a galactic power. The battle against the Zorveth had forced the universe to recognize humanity's strength. Some wanted alliances, some wanted war, and some wanted to run. The next move was humanity's to make. Would they become rulers? Would they become peacekeepers? Or would they become something else entirely? Reeves stepped into the war room, the eyes of every leader, officer, and strategist on him. The galaxy is watching us, he said. So let's give them something to talk about. The final words. A new era begins. The war with the Zorveth was over. But the true battle for control of the galaxy had just begun. And humanity, they were just getting started. Shadows in the void. The war was only the beginning. Deep space, a signal no one should have heard. In the cold abyss of space, a forgotten satellite drifted on the edge of the known galaxy. It was old, built before humanity had even left their solar system. It should have been dead. But then it activated. A whisper, a pulse of data, shot into the dark. Somewhere far beyond the reach of the Galactic Council, something woke up. Earth, humanity's next move. The United Terran Fleet stood unmatched. The Ironclad, along with hundreds of human warships, now patrolled space not as explorers, but as enforcers. The Galactic Council, once dismissive of humanity, had extended an offer of peace. But Captain Reeves knew better. Peace is just war waiting for a new battlefield, he muttered, watching the Council's message flicker on the screen. Then came the second message, not from the Council, not from the Zorveth, but from someone else. A signal, old, encoded in pre-spaceflight Earth technology. A distress call. From the void beyond the galaxy. Reeves frowned. That's impossible. But the transmission continued. And then, just before the signal cut off, one final line appeared. If you are human, you must come. The others, they don't know what's out here. Silence filled the war room. Then Reeves turned, eyes cold with determination. Set course. We're going to see what's waiting in the dark. Unknown system. The return of something ancient. In the depths of an uncharted system, a planet burned. It wasn't war. It wasn't natural disaster. It was erasure. Massive black ships, unlike anything seen before, drifted over the ruins. They weren't built for war. They were built for consumption. And deep inside one of them, a voice, cold, mechanical, eternal, whispered, "Humans have been found." Initiating Phase 2, and somewhere, far away, Captain Reeves and his fleet sped toward a danger older than the stars themselves. Humanity thought the war was over. They were wrong. The true war was only beginning.